How does a single New Year's Eve kiss, orchestrated for an audience and captured on every phone, end with a process server calling out my name in the glass lobby of my own office? What happens when the man I tried to provoke collects every receipt and leaves me with the kind of public ending I always thought was impossible for someone like me? My name is Evadne Mireault, and I thought I was smarter than my own marriage. The champagne flutes caught the kitchen light like tiny crystal daggers as I arranged them on the marble counter. Outside, December snow dusted our suburban windows, but inside our open-plan house, everything was warm and golden and perfect for the performance I'd been planning for weeks. "Derek's coming tonight," I announced to Nathan as he adjusted the thermostat. My husband looked up from his phone, some work email about forensic accounting that couldn't wait until after the holidays, and nodded with that infuriating calm that had been driving me crazy for months. "That's nice," he said. Just that. 2 words. No jealousy, no questions, no spark of anything resembling the passion I remembered from our early years together. Derek Voss had been my boyfriend in college, back when I thought I wanted someone unpredictable and exciting. Now he was just a friend, or so I told everyone, including myself. But tonight, Derek was going to be something else entirely. He was going to be my wake-up call for Nathan. "Just friends, obviously," I added, watching Nathan's face for any flicker of concern. Nothing. He was already back to his email, his dark hair falling across his forehead in that way that used to make my heart skip. Now, it just reminded me how far we'd drifted. The doorbell chimed at 7 sharp. Our first guests, Marina Choi, my college roommate and current confidant, along with several colleagues from my boutique HR consulting firm. Marina hugged me tight in the foyer, whispering, "Is he here yet?" "Soon," I whispered back, feeling that familiar thrill of orchestrating something dramatic. Marina had been the one to encourage this plan during our wine-soaked lunch last week. "You need to shake things up," she'd said. "Make Nathan remember what he could lose." By 9 o'clock, our living room buzzed with conversation. Nathan's colleagues from his divorce mediation practice mingled with my co-workers, everyone laughing and drinking, and completely unaware that they were about to witness something that would change everything. The doorbell rang again, and my pulse quickened. Through the glass panels, I could see Derek's familiar silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing the leather jacket that had always made him look like trouble. "I'll get it," I called out, smoothing my black dress as I walked to the door. Behind me, I could feel Nathan's eyes following me, but when I glanced back, he was already turning away to refill someone's wine glass. "Evadne." Derek's smile was exactly as I remembered, crooked, confident, dangerous. He stepped inside, bringing the scent of winter air and expensive cologne. "Thanks for inviting me." "Of course," I said, taking his coat and hanging it in the closet with deliberate care. "Come meet everyone." I led him through the living room, making introductions, watching faces for reactions. Most of our guests were polite, curious about this new addition to our usual circle. But I caught Marina's knowing look, and I saw how Nathan's mother, Irene, pursed her lips when I introduced Derek as an old friend. Nathan himself shook Derek's hand with professional courtesy, asked him about his work in marketing, offered him a drink. If he felt anything, jealousy, suspicion, even mild curiosity about why I'd invited an ex-boyfriend to our New Year's party, he hid it perfectly behind that same maddening composure. By 11:30, I was getting desperate. The countdown was approaching, and Nathan seemed more interested in discussing tax law with his colleague Jim than in paying attention to how Derek kept finding reasons to touch my arm, how we laughed just a little too loudly at each other's jokes. "Nathan's really something," Derek said during one of our staged conversations near the kitchen island. "So, controlled." "That's one word for it," I replied, loud enough for several nearby guests to hear. "Sometimes I wonder if anything could actually get a reaction out of him." Marina appeared at my elbow with fresh champagne. 10 minutes until midnight," she announced, her eyes bright with anticipation and alcohol. This was it, the moment I'd been building toward all evening. "Derek," I said, touching his arm and letting my fingers linger. "Help me get the champagne ready for the toast. I want everything perfect for midnight." We moved into the kitchen, just adjacent to the living room, but separated by the large island. I could feel eyes on us, Marina's encouraging gaze, a few curious looks from other guests, and finally, Nathan glancing our way. The countdown began in the living room. 10, 9, 8. I stepped closer to Derek, my heart hammering against my ribs. This was it. This was how I'd prove to Nathan that he couldn't just take me for granted, couldn't sleepwalk through our marriage while I slowly died of boredom and neglect. 7, 6, 5. Derek's eyes widened as he realized what I was planning, but he didn't step away. 4, 3, 2. I reached up and pulled Derek's face down to mine, pressing my lips against his, just as the room erupted in "Happy New Year." The kiss lasted exactly 3 seconds, long enough for everyone to see, long enough for the moment to burn itself into a dozen phone cameras, long enough to change everything. The champagne fizz seemed to fade into humiliated silence. When I pulled away from Derek and turned toward the living room, I saw a circle of stunned faces. Marina was grinning like she'd just watched the best movie of her life. Nathan's colleague Jim looked deeply uncomfortable. Irene's expression could have frozen hell itself. And Nathan looked at me for exactly 2 seconds, his face completely unreadable. Then he set down his champagne glass, walked to the coat closet, and left the party without saying a word to anyone. The front door closed with a soft click that somehow echoed louder than any slam would have. "Well," Derek said quietly beside me, "that was..." "Perfect," I finished, but my voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Nathan was supposed to fight for me, to show some emotion, to prove he still cared enough to be jealous. Instead, he'd just left. Above the kitchen doorway, the small red light of our security camera blinked steadily, recording everything. I woke up alone on New Year's Day, with a headache that had nothing to do with champagne, and everything to do with the way Nathan's side of the bed was still perfectly made. He'd never come home. Downstairs, evidence of the party scattered across our usually pristine living room. Empty glasses, crumpled napkins, a lipstick stain on one of the champagne flutes that definitely wasn't mine. I gathered the debris mechanically, trying to piece together what had gone wrong with my carefully orchestrated plan. My phone buzzed constantly with messages. Marina. "OMG, that was amazing. How's Nathan this morning?" Several co-workers. "Great party. Thanks for having us." But mixed in were other texts, ones that made my stomach clench. From Jim, Nathan's colleague. "Is Nathan okay? That seemed really hard to watch." From Sarah, one of my work friends. "Evadne, honey, what was that about?" I deleted those messages and focused on the positive ones. This had worked exactly as intended. Nathan had finally shown a reaction, even if it wasn't the jealous confrontation I'd expected. He'd left because he was upset, which meant he cared. He just needed time to process. By noon, he still wasn't home. I tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried texting. "We should talk about last night." No response. At 2:00, his car pulled into the driveway. I positioned myself in the kitchen, arranging flowers in a vase like I was just casually going about my day. When he walked in, he looked tired but composed, carrying a small overnight bag. "Nathan," I started, but he held up a hand. "I'm going to pack a few more things," he said calmly. "I'll be staying at my mother's for a while." "Don't you think you're overreacting?" I kept my voice light, reasonable. It was just a kiss, a stupid New Year's kiss that didn't mean anything. He paused in the doorway, his back to me. "A kiss you planned for weeks, Evadne. A kiss you orchestrated in front of all our friends and colleagues. A kiss you gave to your ex-boyfriend while your daughter was upstairs sleeping." The mention of Sienna made me flinch. Our 7-year-old had been at a sleepover during the party, but she'd be home soon, and I hadn't thought about how to explain Nathan's absence. "You're being dramatic," I said. "It was a moment of, I don't know, nostalgia. It didn't mean anything." Nathan turned around then, and for the first time in months, I saw real emotion in his eyes. Not the jealous fire I'd been hoping for, but something colder and more dangerous. "I know about the texts, Evadne." My blood turned to ice water. "What texts?" "The ones you deleted. The ones where you and Derek planned this whole thing. The ones where you told Marina it was a test to see if I'd fight for you." He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot of messages I'd definitely deleted from my device. "How did you—" "Cloud backup," he said simply. "Amazing how technology works when you understand it." I stared at the screen, seeing my own words thrown back at me. "I need to do something to wake Nathan up. He's been sleepwalking through our marriage." And Derek's response, "Whatever you need, Ev. Just tell me when and where." "Nathan, I can explain." "I've already explained it to myself," he said, pocketing his phone. "You decided our marriage was boring, so you chose to humiliate me publicly as some kind of test. You used an old boyfriend as a prop in your personal drama. You turned our New Year's party into your private theater." The calm way he said it was somehow worse than if he'd screamed. This was Nathan in full forensic accountant mode, laying out facts with devastating precision. "You're making this sound so calculated," I protested. "It wasn't like that." "Wasn't it?" He pulled out a folder from his briefcase. When had he gotten that from his car, and opened it on the kitchen counter? Inside were printed screenshots, timestamps, even a photo of Derek's arrival that I didn't remember anyone taking. "This is from our doorbell camera," Nathan said, pointing to the photo. 7:43 p.m. You can see Derek checking his phone before he rings the bell. Want to guess what text he was reading? I didn't want to guess. I already knew. It was the message I'd sent him. "Wait until 7:45, then ring the bell. I want to make sure everyone's here to see you arrive." "You've been busy," I said, trying to inject some lightness into my voice. "Very CSI of you." "It's what I do, Evadne. I investigate, I document, I build cases." He closed the folder and picked up his overnight bag. "I'm very good at it." "So what, you're going to divorce me over a kiss?" I laughed, but it sounded forced even to me. "Come on, Nathan. We can work through this." "Can we?" He was already walking toward the stairs. "Because from where I stand, you've spent weeks planning to betray me, executed it in front of everyone we know, and your biggest concern seems to be that I'm not reacting the way you wanted." I followed him upstairs, watching as he methodically packed clothes, toiletries, important documents. Everything he did was careful, deliberate, like he was following some internal checklist. "What about Sienna?" I asked. "What am I supposed to tell her?" "Tell her the truth," Nathan said without looking up from his packing. "Tell her Mommy kissed another man at the party, and Daddy needs some time to think about it." "I'm not telling our 7-year-old that." "Then figure out your own explanation." He zipped the suitcase closed. "But don't lie to her the way you've been lying to me." He was at the bedroom door when I made my last attempt. "Nathan, please. I love you. I felt like we were drifting apart, and I did something stupid to try to get your attention. Isn't that proof that I care? That I want to fight for us?" He turned back to me, and for a moment I thought I saw the old Nathan, the man who used to look at me like I was the most fascinating person in the world. "Evadne," he said quietly, "if you wanted my attention, you could have talked to me. If you felt like we were drifting, you could have suggested counseling. If you wanted to fight for us, you could have fought with me, not against me." I know, but instead you chose to humiliate me in front of our friends and family. You chose to make our marriage problems into public entertainment. You chose to involve another man in what should have been between us." He shook his head. "That's not fighting for us, Evadne. That's fighting against us." After he left, I sat in our bedroom staring at the empty closet space where his clothes had been. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Nathan was supposed to be jealous, not methodical. He was supposed to demand I choose between him and Derek, not calmly pack a bag and leave. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Hey, hope everything's okay after last night. That got pretty intense." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Everything's fine. Nathan's just being dramatic." But even as I typed it, I could hear the echo of Nathan's words. "I'm very good at it." At what exactly? At investigating, at building cases, or at something else entirely? Outside, the afternoon light was already fading, and somewhere in the house, I could hear the soft mechanical hum of our security system, recording everything, backing up everything, keeping perfect digital records of our perfectly falling apart life. Sienna came home from her sleepover on January 2nd with glittery nail polish and questions about why Daddy's car wasn't in the driveway. I told her he was helping Grandma Irene with some projects around her house, which wasn't entirely a lie, but felt like one anyway. "When's he coming home?" she asked, settling into her usual spot on the couch with her art supplies. "Soon, sweetheart," I said, though I had no idea if that was true. She nodded and started drawing, her small fingers gripping a grey crayon with unusual intensity. When I looked over her shoulder an hour later, I saw a family portrait, me in bright pink, herself in purple, and Nathan as a grey shadow standing apart from us, his face just an empty oval. "That's an interesting picture," I said carefully. "Daddy's been grey for a while," Sienna said without looking up. "Even before he left." The observation hit me harder than it should have. How long had our 7-year-old been watching Nathan withdraw? How much had she seen that I'd been too focused on my own drama to notice? My phone rang, interrupting my guilt spiral. Marina's name flashed on the screen. "Spill everything," she said the moment I answered. "Where did Nathan go after he left? What did he say this morning? Are you getting the reaction you wanted?" I walked into the kitchen, lowering my voice. "He's staying at his mother's." And he found the text, Marina. The planning messages I deleted. "How?" "Cloud backup." I opened the refrigerator and stared at its contents without seeing them. He had screenshots of everything. "Shit." Marina was quiet for a moment. "But okay, this is actually good. Now everything's out in the open. No more games, no more pretending. He knows you were trying to get his attention, and clearly it worked." I don't think worked is the right word. "Evadne, honey, you've been complaining for months that Nathan was sleepwalking through your marriage. Well, he's definitely awake now. This is your chance to have the real conversation you've been avoiding." Maybe Marina was right. Maybe this was just the dramatic breakthrough our relationship needed. Nathan was a logical person. Once he calmed down, he'd see that everything I'd done came from a place of love and frustration, not malice. That optimism lasted until I checked my work email Monday morning. The first message was from my assistant. Several clients called asking to reschedule this week's meetings. Should I ask why? The second was from my business partner, David. "We need to talk. My office, 9 a.m. The third was from a potential new client. After some consideration, we've decided to go with a different consulting firm. I drove to work with a growing sense of unease. My boutique HR consulting firm occupied the 15th floor of a gleaming downtown office building, all glass walls and marble floors designed to project success and professionalism. Usually, walking through that lobby made me feel powerful, important. Today, it felt like walking into a fishbowl. David was waiting in his office with a grim expression and a tablet full of screenshots. "Want to explain these?" He turned the screen toward me, and I saw photos from the New Year's party. Not the innocent group shots I'd posted on social media, but candid images that captured the exact moment of the kiss, the shocked faces of our guests, Nathan's expression as he left. "Where did you get those?" "Jim Patterson sent them to me. Nathan's colleague. Apparently, several people at your party work with clients we share." David set the tablet down and leaned back in his chair. Evadne, what were you thinking? It was a personal matter, I said stiffly. It has nothing to do with work. Doesn't it? You invited professional colleagues to your home and then created a drama that made everyone uncomfortable. Jim said people are talking about it, wondering what kind of judgment you show in your personal life and whether it reflects on your professional advice. The unfairness of it made me angry. So I kissed someone at a party. So what? Since when is that grounds for professional judgment? Since you did it in front of a room full of people who include your husband's colleagues, your own clients, and mutual professional contacts. David's voice was patient but firm. Since those same people watched your husband leave in what was obviously distress and are now wondering what kind of person orchestrates that kind of public humiliation. I didn't orchestrate anything, I lied. David picked up his phone and showed me a text message. David, this is Jim Patterson. I felt I should let you know that several people at Evadne's party heard her discussing with friends how she'd planned the kiss as some kind of test for Nathan. Thought you should be aware in case it affects any shared professional relationships. My mouth went dry. Who heard that? Does it matter? David put his phone away. Evadne, I'm not firing you. You're talented, and we've built something good here. But you need to understand that your personal choices have professional consequences. I'm getting calls from people who are uncomfortable, who feel like they witnessed something they shouldn't have. I spent the rest of the morning fielding awkward phone calls and rescheduling meetings. By lunch, the pattern was clear. People were polite, professional, and distant. The easy camaraderie I'd built with clients and colleagues felt strained, like everyone was seeing me through a different lens. At 2:00, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Mireault, this is Jim Patterson. I wanted to reach out because I'm concerned about Nathan. He's a good man and a valued colleague. What happened at your party was difficult to witness. I hope you can work things out, but I felt you should know that several of us have reached out to offer Nathan our support during this time. I stared at the message, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. Nathan wasn't just staying at his mother's house, licking his wounds. He was talking to people, and those people were taking sides. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Sarah from accounting. Hey, I've been thinking about the party. That must have been so hard for Nathan. Is he okay? Do you need to talk? Then another, from Kevin, one of Nathan's friends. Evadne? I don't usually get involved in personal matters, but what I saw at your party was really concerning. Nathan deserves better. And another, from Lisa, a mutual friend. I keep thinking about New Year's. I can't imagine how hurt Nathan must be. Have you considered counseling? 4 people. 4 witnesses to my test, who are now questioning my character, offering Nathan support, and making it clear they found my behavior unacceptable. I tried calling Nathan, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried texting. People are talking about the party. We need to present a united front. His response came an hour later. There is no we right now, Evadne. There's you dealing with the consequences of your choices and me trying to figure out what comes next. That evening, I picked Sienna up from after-school care and took her to dinner at her favorite restaurant, partly to maintain normalcy, and partly because I couldn't face cooking in our empty kitchen. She was quieter than usual, pushing her chicken nuggets around her plate without much interest. Mummy, she said finally, why is everyone acting weird? What do you mean, sweetheart? At school today, Mrs. Henderson asked if Daddy was okay, and when we went to the store, Mr. Jim waved at me but didn't come say hi like he usually does. She looked up at me with Nathan's serious dark eyes. Did something bad happen? I reached across the table and took her small hand. Daddy and I had a disagreement, but it's nothing for you to worry about. Sometimes grown-ups need space to work things out. Is it because of the man at the party? My blood froze. What man? The tall man with the dark hair. I saw him when I got up to get water. You were talking to him in the kitchen, and then everyone got quiet. She tilted her head. Daddy looked sad. Sienna had been awake. She'd seen the kiss, or at least part of it. My 7-year-old daughter had witnessed me betraying her father. Sienna, It's okay, Mommy, she said quietly. I know you didn't mean to make Daddy sad, but maybe you should say sorry. Driving home, I thought about apologies and consequences, about the growing list of people who'd witnessed my moment of calculated drama and found it lacking. Nathan had always been well-liked, respected for his calm professionalism and quiet integrity. I'd underestimated how many people would rally around him, how my public test would become public judgment. At home, I found Sienna's drawing from earlier still on the coffee table. Nathan, grey and separate, standing apart from his family. Even our daughter had seen what I'd been too self-absorbed to notice. I hadn't just damaged my marriage with that kiss. I'd been damaging it for months with my complaints, my dissatisfaction, my constant need for drama and reaction. My phone buzzed with one more message, this one from Derek. Hey, I've been thinking about New Year's. I feel like I got caught up in something I didn't fully understand. Maybe we should take a break from hanging out until you and Nathan work things out. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. That's probably best. But as I hit send, I realized Derek's withdrawal meant something bigger than just losing a friend. It meant that even the man I'd used as a prop in my marital drama could see what I was still struggling to accept. I'd gone too far, hurt too many people, and created consequences I couldn't control. Nathan wasn't just building a case against our marriage. He was building a community of support for whatever came next. And I was standing on the outside, looking in. The credit card statement arrived on a Tuesday, and for the first time in our 12-year marriage, I opened it with genuine dread. Nathan had always handled our finances. He was the forensic accountant after all. But with him staying at his mother's house, and our joint accounts frozen, I'd been forced to confront exactly how much money I'd been spending. The numbers were worse than I'd expected. December alone showed a pattern of purchases I'd made without really thinking. Expensive dinners with friends that were actually solo meals when I was feeling sorry for myself. A shopping spree after a particularly frustrating fight with Nathan. And there, highlighted in yellow marker in Nathan's precise handwriting, the purchase that made my stomach drop. $2,300 at Henley & Associates Fine Jewelry. Derek's watch, the friendship gift I'd bought him 3 days before the party. Nathan had been through this statement with the same methodical attention he brought to his professional investigations. Other purchases were highlighted too. A $400 spa day I'd booked to clear my head. A $600 dinner at the city's most expensive restaurant where I'd taken Marina to plan my New Year's strategy. Even smaller purchases that told the story of my growing dissatisfaction and my expensive attempts to fill the emotional void. My phone rang, Nathan's name on the screen. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. "Can you meet me at Starbucks on 5th Street in an hour?" "Of course. Nathan, I've been hoping—" "Bring the credit card statements," he continued as if I hadn't spoken. "All of them. December, November, October. Why?" "Because we're going to discuss the $8,400 you spent in the last quarter on what I can only describe as your midlife crisis." I'd never heard Nathan sound so cold, so clinical. This wasn't my husband asking for a conversation. This was a forensic accountant demanding an audit. The Starbucks was crowded, with the usual mix of college students and remote workers, but Nathan had chosen a table in the back corner where we could talk privately. He was already there when I arrived, a folder spread open in front of him, like he was preparing for a business meeting. "Sit down, Evadne." I sat, clutching my purse with the credit card statements inside. Nathan looked tired but alert, wearing the navy suit I'd always loved on him, but now seemed like armor. "Let's start with this," he said, sliding a printed bank statement across the table. "December 15th, Henley & Associates, $2,300. Want to explain what you bought Derek for Christmas?" "It wasn't for Christmas," I said weakly. "It was just—" A thank you gift. For what? I couldn't answer that honestly. For agreeing to be my prop, for helping me make you jealous, for being willing to kiss me in front of everyone we know. It was a nice watch, I said instead. Derek's been a good friend. Nathan's laugh was bitter. A good friend, right. He pulled out another document. Here's the text you sent Marina on December 16th, the day after you bought the watch. Got Day the perfect gift. When Nathan sees it at the party, he'll finally understand he has competition. How do you have that text? Marina's phone was subpoenaed. Subpoenaed? The word came out as a squeak. Nathan, what are you doing? I'm protecting myself, he said calmly. And I'm documenting the systematic way you've been planning to damage our marriage. He flipped to another page. November 3rd, dinner at Le Bernardin, $412. You told me you were eating at home that night. November 15th, weekend spa retreat, $600. You said you were visiting your sister. November 28th, shopping spree at Nordstrom, $800. Charged the same day we had our fight about the credit card bills. Each item felt like a small betrayal being read back to me. I'd told myself these were just normal expenses, ways to cope with the stress of my failing marriage. But laid out in Nathan's precise timeline, they looked like something else entirely. A pattern of deception and escalating financial infidelity. I was unhappy, I said. I was trying to deal with feeling neglected and... So you decided to spend our money on gifts for other men and lie to me about where you were going. Nathan's voice remained level, but I could see the anger in his eyes. Evadne, this isn't about being unhappy. This is about a complete breakdown in honesty and respect. He pulled out another folder, thicker than the first. This is 6 months of financial records. Joint checking, savings, both credit cards, even your individual account that you thought I didn't monitor. He opened it to reveal a spreadsheet that looked like something from his professional investigations. Want to guess what the pattern shows? I didn't want to guess. I could already see from his expression that whatever he'd found was damning. Every time we had a fight, your spending spiked, Nathan continued. Every time I tried to discuss our budget, you'd go buy something expensive the next day. And starting in October, you began systematically hiding purchases from me. I wasn't hiding anything. October 4th, you split a restaurant bill across 2 cards to keep it under the limit that triggers my alerts. October 19th, you used cash from 3 different ATM withdrawals to buy something you didn't want appearing on our statement. November 2nd, you opened a store credit card without telling me. He looked up from the papers. Should I continue? I felt like I was drowning in data, in evidence of behavior I'd never really examined. Each purchase had seemed justified at the time, but together they painted a picture of someone who was either completely reckless with money or deliberately deceptive. Nathan, I can explain all of this. Can you? He leaned forward. Can you explain why you bought Derek a watch that costs more than most people's monthly rent? Can you explain why you've been lying about where you go and what you spend? Can you explain why you thought any of this was acceptable behavior for a married woman with a child and joint financial responsibilities? The clinical way he laid out the facts was somehow worse than if he'd screamed at me. This wasn't hurt or anger talking. This was professional assessment. Nathan was looking at our marriage the same way he'd look at a corporate fraud case. I felt like I was disappearing, I said finally, like you didn't see me anymore, didn't care what I did or where I went or how I felt, so I acted out. You acted out. Nathan repeated the phrase like he was testing its weight. You spent $8,000 acting out. You lied to me dozens of times acting out. You bought expensive gifts for other men acting out. He closed the folder. And then you kissed Derek in our kitchen, in front of our friends, as the ultimate act of acting out. Yes, I whispered, and now you want me to forgive you because you felt invisible. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, staring at the closed folder. When he looked up, his expression was almost sad. Evadne, Do you know what I do when a client feels like their spouse is hiding financial information? You investigate. I investigate. And do you know what I tell them when the investigation reveals systematic deception, hidden purchases, and money being spent on relationships outside the marriage? I shook my head. I tell them they're not looking at someone who felt neglected. They're looking at someone who was planning an exit strategy, whether they admitted it to themselves or not. He gathered his papers and put them back in the folder. All of this, the spending, the lying, the public humiliation, it's not the behavior of someone trying to save their marriage. It's the behavior of someone trying to justify leaving it. That's not true, I protested. I love you. I want to fix this. Do you? Nathan stood up, folder in hand. Because from where I sit, it looks like you've been systematically destroying our financial trust, our emotional intimacy, and our public reputation for months. The kiss was just the finale. He was halfway to the door when I called after him. Nathan, please, what do I have to do to fix this? He turned back, and for a moment I saw the man I'd married, the one who used to look at me like I was the most important person in his world. I don't know if you can, he said quietly, but if you want to try, you can start by being honest about what you've really been doing. All of it, not just the parts that make you look sympathetic. After he left, I sat in the coffee shop staring at my reflection in the window. Nathan was right about the pattern, about the lies, about the systematic way I'd been undermining our marriage while telling myself I was trying to save it. But he was wrong about one thing. I hadn't been planning an exit strategy. I'd been planning something much worse. I'd been planning to stay in a marriage I was actively sabotaging, expecting Nathan to fight for a relationship I was systematically destroying. The question now was whether he'd figured that out too, and if he had, what exactly he planned to do about it. The process server found me in the worst possible place at the worst possible time. I was standing in the glass-walled lobby of my office building, shaking hands with Margaret Chen, the CEO of a major client we'd been courting for months. Margaret had finally agreed to meet in person to discuss a significant HR consulting contract, and I'd dressed for success, my best suit, my most confident smile, my carefully rehearsed pitch about building stronger workplace cultures. Mrs. Evadne Mireault, the voice cut through our conversation like a knife through silk. I turned to see a middle-aged woman in a brown coat, holding a thick manila envelope and a clipboard. Behind her, the lobby's marble floors and glass walls created perfect acoustics, ensuring that every word would echo clearly to the receptionist, the security guard, and the small crowd of people waiting for elevators. Yes, I said, though I already knew what was coming. You've been served. She held out the envelope with professional courtesy. Petition for dissolution of marriage, temporary restraining order, and motion for exclusive use of the marital residence. Please sign here acknowledging receipt. The lobby seemed to freeze around us. Margaret's handshake went limp in mine. The receptionist's typing stopped. Even the elevator music seemed to pause as I took the envelope with hands that had started to shake. Thank you, I managed, signing the clipboard with a pen that felt like it weighed 50 pounds. The process server nodded and left, her footsteps clicking efficiently across the marble floor. I stood there holding the envelope, aware that everyone in the lobby was staring at me with a mixture of curiosity and pity. I'm so sorry, Margaret, I said, turning back to my client with what I hoped was a professional smile. A personal matter. Shall we head up to my office? But Margaret's expression had changed completely. The warm interest she'd shown moments before had been replaced by cool assessment. Actually, Evadne, I think we should reschedule, she said, already stepping toward the elevator. I'll have my assistant call yours. I watched her leave, knowing with sick certainty that her assistant would never call, that the contract we'd spent months pursuing had just evaporated in the 30 seconds it took for my personal life to explode in the most public way possible. Upstairs, I locked my office door and opened the envelope with trembling fingers. The legal documents were thick, official, and devastating in their precision. Nathan wasn't just asking for a divorce, he was asking for everything. The petition cited irreconcilable differences and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The temporary restraining order prohibited me from contacting him, except through attorneys. The motion for exclusive use of our house was supported by a dozen exhibits: financial records, witness statements, screenshots of text messages, and something that made my blood turn to ice: a DVD labeled Security Footage, December 31st, New Year's Party. Nathan had compiled evidence like he was building a case against a criminal, not ending a marriage with his wife. My phone buzzed with a text from David, my business partner. "Margaret Chen just called. She's withdrawing from consideration for the contract. We need to talk, now." I walked to David's office on legs that felt like they might give out. Through the glass walls, I could see other employees pretending not to stare, their conversation stopping as I passed. David was waiting with his door closed and his expression grim. "Sit down," he said, "and tell me why one of our biggest potential clients just watched you get served with divorce papers in our lobby." "It was terrible timing," I said weakly. "I had no idea Nathan was going to—" "Nathan did this?" David's eyebrows shot up. "Your husband had you served at work?" "Apparently." I slumped in the chair, feeling the weight of the legal documents in my lap. "He's been methodical about this whole thing." David was quiet for a moment, processing. "Evadne, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything else about your personal situation that could affect the business? Any other surprises coming?" I thought about the financial records Nathan had compiled, the witness statements from the party, the security footage that apparently captured everything. "I don't know," I admitted. "Nathan's a forensic accountant. He's very thorough." "Jesus Christ." David rubbed his forehead. "Evadne, Margaret Chen isn't just any client. She sits on 3 major corporate boards. She knows everyone in this industry. If word gets around that our senior partner is involved in some kind of messy divorce scandal—" "It's not a scandal," I interrupted. "It's a personal matter." "It became a business matter the moment you got served in our lobby in front of a client," David said sharply. "And it became a bigger problem when that client decided we're not the kind of firm she wants to work with." I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to focus on work, but every phone call felt strained. Every meeting seemed to carry an undercurrent of whispered speculation. By 5 o'clock, 3 more clients had called to postpone upcoming projects. At home, I found the locks changed and a notice taped to the front door. "By order of the court, the above-named respondent is prohibited from entering this residence pending further hearing." I stared at the notice in disbelief. Nathan had not only filed for divorce, he'd gotten a court order keeping me out of my own house. I tried calling him, but the number went straight to a recording. "This number will no longer accept calls from this caller." I tried texting, "Nathan, this is insane. We need to talk." The response came from a different number. "This is attorney Jennifer Walsh representing Nathan Mireault. All communication must go through this office. My direct number is below." I called the attorney's office and got voicemail. "You've reached the law offices of Walsh and Associates. If this is regarding the Mireault matter, please leave a detailed message and we'll respond within 24 hours. 24 hours. Nathan had not only locked me out of our house, he'd locked me out of direct communication with him entirely. I drove to a hotel, checked in with a credit card I prayed would still work, and sat on the generic bedspread trying to process what had happened. In the span of 8 hours, I'd lost a major client, been publicly humiliated at work, been served with divorce papers, and been locked out of my own home. Nathan hadn't just filed for divorce. He'd launched a coordinated attack on every aspect of my life. My phone rang. Marina. "Oh my God, are you okay?" she said the moment I answered. "I just heard about the papers being served at your office." "How did you hear about that?" Sarah posted about it on Facebook. She said Margaret Chen was telling people at the country club that she watched you get served, and it was the most awkward thing she'd ever seen. Marina's voice was breathless with drama. Evadne, this is bad. This is really, really bad. I know it's bad, Marina. I'm living it. No, you don't understand. People are talking, not just about the divorce, but about everything. The party, the kiss, the way Nathan left. And now this public serving thing makes it look like he's the victim and you're the villain. I closed my eyes, feeling the walls closing in. What are people saying? That you humiliated him publicly and he's finally fighting back. That you had it coming. That Nathan's always been such a nice guy and everyone's surprised it took him this long to stand up to you. Each word felt like a small knife. And what are you saying? Marina was quiet for a moment. I'm saying I think you underestimated him. Nathan's not the passive guy you thought he was. He's been planning this, building a case, collecting evidence. This isn't an emotional reaction to the kiss, Evadne. This is a strategic response to months of behavior. Whose side are you on here? I'm on your side, Marina said quickly, but I'm also trying to help you understand what you're up against. Nathan's not just hurt, he's angry. And he's using every professional skill he has to make sure you pay for what you did. After we hung up, I lay on the hotel bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about strategy and evidence and the methodical way Nathan had dismantled my life in a single day. He'd served me in public to humiliate me professionally. He'd changed the locks to force me into a hotel. He'd cut off direct communication to control the narrative. And somewhere in his evidence file, he had security footage of the kiss, financial records of my spending, and witness statements from people who'd watched me orchestrate the whole thing. Nathan wasn't fighting for our marriage. He was destroying me as efficiently and legally as possible. And the most terrifying part was that I was beginning to realize he was just getting started. The courtroom was smaller than expected, fluorescent lit and sterile. I sat with my attorney Susan, watching Nathan's legal team arrange exhibits with military precision. 3 months of evidence had painted me as the villain. Judge Martinez called court to order. Nathan's attorney projected a timeline. December 1st, respondent plans Operation Wake-Up Call. December 31st, executes public kiss. My text to Marina appeared on screen. I need him to fight for me, even if I have to force him. Witnesses testified. Jim Patterson called my behavior deliberate, a performance. Marina admitted I'd planned it for weeks. Then they played security footage. Me positioning Derek, checking the camera angle, initiating the kiss. Were you aware you were being recorded? Attorney Walsh asked. Yes. Judge Martinez reviewed her notes. Mrs. Mireault engaged in systematic emotional abuse designed to humiliate her spouse. She awarded Nathan the house, primary custody, 60% of assets. The gavel fell. Outside, I understood. Nathan had documented everything. My test had become permanent proof of my cruelty.